Hey guys, I've been asked what my opinion is of the whole situation with the coworker, specific to the case of Christopher Watts. So I'm going to tell you my opinion. But first, I want to give you a little timeline, the way I see it. In March of 2018, Christopher Watts learned that they were about to lose their house. Remember, even though he signed over interest in the house, equity, to his wife, the only person responsible for that mortgage was Christopher Watts himself, because he bought that house all by himself. And then a month later, he quitclaim deeded interest to his wife. So in March of 2018, he learned that they were about to lose the house. So he took $10,000 out of his 401k in order to save the house, in order to make 3 house payments to catch up, because Christopher Watts' wife, who had convinced him that he wasn't very good with money, was actually the one not paying the house payments. That was in March. In April, was it the end of March or early April? Christopher Watts' wife was having dinner in a restaurant. I wonder if Christopher Watts was like app chapping or whatever you do to find out how much she was spending at the restaurant. Anyway, she was having dinner at a restaurant and she realized that a man who was seated nearby was a lawyer. So throughout his dinner with his wife, he was peppered with questions from Christopher Watts' wife, all about, you guessed it, divorce. Well, shortly after that, Christopher Watts came home one day and the camera was rolling, of course, and he was told by his wife that they were going to have another baby. Did you see the look on his face? To me, it kind of looked like the look of, how did that happen? It also looked kind of like the look of maybe thinking he wished that that camera wasn't constantly being pointed at him. I say camera, but you know we mean phone, right? So let's see. March, April, May. In June, Christopher Watts' wife took off for 6 weeks to go live with her parents over the summer. I think that's kind of interesting. Couple of things. Didn't she make it sound in her posts on social media like she was flying with 2 children and what a hero she was to be able to do that? And I know there were a lot of people talking about whether or not she gave the kids Benadryl. I don't know. But it turned out actually her father flew into Colorado and then flew with her and the girls. I thought that was interesting. And I think just the whole 6-week thing is interesting because that's a long time for 2 little girls at those ages to be away from their father. That's just a long time. It doesn't seem normal. But if you look at some of the posts where she's complaining that he's living the bachelor life while she's stuck with the girls, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? And then if you consider the nut meltdown, it makes even more sense, doesn't it? So that's just kind of the timeline. You know, the big deal trying to make him angry with his family. I think staging the entire scene, quite frankly. I think she knew the marriage was over in March. And I don't think she planned on letting him divorce her. So, back to the question of what I think about the situation with the coworker. I think by the time that Christopher Watts started seeing his coworker, the marriage was already through. And I'm not making excuses of obviously he should have waited, until the divorce was final, but take a look at anyone you know who has been divorced. Did they wait until the divorce was final? I know a lot of people who do, but I think a lot of people don't. And I don't think that society is considering them to be some kind of terrible person if their marriage is already on the rocks, right? So what did he see in his coworker? Well, I think he saw a woman who was not insecure, who was not lazy. I think he saw a woman who was intelligent, hardworking. She had a career of her own, an actual paying job. I think he saw her beauty inside and out. I think he was attracted to her self-confidence, her strength. I think that she probably was a good listener, and I think he probably found his voice and was able to actually speak without fear of being ridiculed or told what to do or told what to think. I think he was planning on divorcing his wife. And whether or not he and his coworker would have continued dating, neither here nor there. His coworker didn't have anything to do with what happened at all. And you know what? His coworker didn't have anything to do with what happened when his wife supposedly got all upset about his restaurant bill. That marriage was already done. And if that hairstylist ever gives another interview, pay attention, because she was very clear in her interview when she said that Christopher Watts' wife sat there in her chair and told her she was getting a divorce and she was actually looking forward to being single again. That wasn't in August, just a couple of days before the tragedy. That was actually at least a month before. And isn't it interesting that that hairstylist quit her job all of a sudden and moved? I think that's really interesting. The coworker? Yeah, she was pretty. And yeah, a lot of people think she was a heck of a lot prettier than Christopher Watts' wife. Big deal, right? Because it isn't about the whole pretty thing. It's about who they are on the inside. And for all the haters who are cutting down the coworker, and then they run over to our channel and they tell us we're jealous of Christopher Watts' wife, like that makes no sense. Especially when it's so obvious that while they're bashing the coworker, they're the ones who are jealous and insecure. Whatever the heck happened the night that two little girls lost their lives in what should have been the safety of their own home, we'll never learn anything from this case about what happened or any of the difficulties leading up to the tragedy if all we're going to do is just try to blame everything on the mistress, for Pete's sake. And you know what? She wasn't even a mistress. Mistresses, like, get fancy cars and apartments and shopping sprees and stuff. She was a friend. She was an equal. She was a good person. She is a good person. And she doesn't deserve the crap that the haters online are trying to dish her way. The same is true for Christopher Watt's family. They're good people. They don't deserve the crap that the attackers are trying to throw at them. They don't deserve it. They're decent, hardworking, honest people. They have class. You know who else are really good people? Those of us who are discussing this case, who are focused on what happened to poor little Bella and Cece. We have been put through the ringer with the attackers, throwing all their crap at us, haven't we? But we stand up for our rights to discuss a true crime case. We stand up for our right to form an opinion of our own. We're not harassing anyone. We're not bashing anyone. We're not the ones committing slander and libel. We just keep right on discussing this case and whatever other case we want to discuss. There's no hatred in our hearts. We're pretty much disgusted by what we see going on around us. But even then, we don't hate the people who are attacking us. We just wish that they'd be able to somehow deal with whatever their issues are in a more constructive way. If they disagree with our opinions, it's pretty simple for them to just discuss the case, right? That would be a constructive way of handling their anger and their emotions. Just have a discussion. But of course, I don't think they want to have a discussion because I think they're trying to make money off of this case. And I'm not sure, but I think that our having a discussion, they fear might get in the way of their cash flow